Halo, the TV series, Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4. The first one being Visegrad, the second one being Reach. Now, this is going to be kind of a two-part review. We're going to start with Episode 3 because I missed out on that, so if you want to jump ahead to my Episode 4 review, get some thoughts and some chatter, totally cool. Be sure to like the video, subscribing's great as well. The plan is to do this week to week, but we did have an issue where Paramount didn't provide the screeners, so I didn't get to do episode 3, and I had to spend a whole week chasing them, and it was like, come on. Anyway, so the first two episodes I actually thought really fixed a lot of problems with the show. Episode 3 kind of slid a little bit back into that season 1 style. Still, I think, better overall than the first season for the third episode there. But I did feel like the whole Quan subplot where they're going around on the huge station dealing with a bit of I guess like a slight mutiny type situation, it just wasn't that interesting to me. It's just kind of like, these side characters. I get that they're trying to make us have like a two split story going on, but it's just not that interesting. I just really, really don't care for Quan and her adventures and the other characters that Quan interacts with. It's a lot less interesting of a narrative plot. It takes away from the core focus of Reach and everything that's happening in that particular situation, as the state and the status, I guess you would say, overall of Reach is starting to get a little bit worrisome. We're hearing some mixed things as we venture forward into Sword Base. Some teases of some contingencies, and that side is kind of interesting. What did happen to Cobalt? What's going on with that team? And Master Chief having to investigate. So I do think the third episode was kind of the weak link out of the season. But with that, let's dive in and talk about the fourth episode, Reach. I told you it'd be a brief recap. Let's dive in. So Reach is, it's glorious. Honestly, it's an absolutely fantastic episode in every way. It was excellent. We finally got to see the conflict of the Covenant battling against a planet. Some of the choices for how they've adjusted the lore were crazy, some of them a little unforgivable. I literally, with one particular situation that arises later, I do not know how they're going to fulfill a later storyline. I really love the connection between the Master Chief and Perez. I actually think that character, she's really quite interesting and a great foil to the Master Chief, having this human that has this personal stake on the planet of Reach. She has this personal element of like connection, and she's like, there's families there, and having to deal with this huge invasion, this like end of the world type situation. It's really neat because you've got Master Chief who's very calm, collected, and focused, and it's nice to have human characters that aren't useless human characters and actually add and or complement his interactions and his focus on the planet. You've got Ackerson up to his usual things, definitely some twists and some turns, going to be switching things around. But just again, talking about that lore element of the show, it's very, very well done. There is a very beautiful, rousing speech that we get out of Keyes that was very, very effective. So a big issue I would say is that the episode, the Spartans, they are kind of without a very key element of who they are as a people. And I think some people will get really frustrated with that. And initially I was kind of like, oh, this is the worst. But it kind of makes sense in regards to how it connects to the speech and the motivation of the soldiers as they battle on this planet, or in the city of Reach City, which they could have gone with other naming conventions for Reach City. But anyways, I digress. So there is a lore altering kind of thing. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on how they think the show is going to be able to execute later plots with this change. I think it's maybe they needed to cut down on the budget and the actors or something like that. It was, there's some pretty weird choices, honestly. I was just like, huh. So, yeah, I would say this episode was probably the best episode of the entire series. It was, as I said, glorious. It was amazing. I've always wanted to see a planetary siege done on a larger scale. You got to see the panic the just the conflict of these overwhelmed humans, the UNSC forces, basically just, the populace, like the human, regular, just the civilians caught in the mix of it all, frantically running, fleeing, just getting like mowed down by the Covenant, the elites, the jackals. It's so cool. I think a lack of grunts. Now that I'm thinking of it, real lack of grunts. But yeah, it was so intriguing finally getting to see that sort of like almost guerrilla like warfare on the streets. And then it builds towards a bit of a silly conflict later on. Like it was like the end of the episode was like a little like, that's a little silly that bit. But the parts where they're doing these battles and you get to see just the raw power of like Master Chief going against these elites, kind of showing like regular people are completely defenseless, completely like useless against being able to attack or do anything with these creatures, and Chief's just there like cutting them up with basic like weapons and stuff. That was really cool. I also love that there was a little bit of an Easter egg with an original Xbox. You might notice that when you're watching. Pretty cool to watch out for. A little bit of a nice lesson on what Master Chief and other soldiers should be fighting to protect, which is a great theme from the Halo series, I think, is your history and the importance of that, your culture and everything in regards to being a person, even in times of great conflict and war. I thought that was really well done. The pacing, I love the kind of confusing or mysterious, I think is a better, side arc kind of going on with Halsey and that connection to Ackerson. Finally seeing that kind of get resolved, a lot more of a human side to that character. That was a good character development. Just a focused episode, which was nice. I didn't love every element of it, but I do think that this was really, really great. Very, very well done. If it wasn't like hugely lore changing in crazy ways, I would kind of be even more behind it. But I'm just sort of like, oh wow, that really, really changes things. They kind of explain what's going on with Miranda. They've got interesting characters moving in neat ways. The conflict was, as I said, really, really cool. We get to see like some big vehicles in action. We get to see some crazy battles and stuff going on. It was cool because it really does show like, there's literally nothing you can do in the event of an attack from like the Covenant, especially one that is kind of a bit of a sneak attack, even though some people know that it's happening. It was really, really interesting. So I did quite like the episode 4. I think this is really, really good. There's glimpses in there of a truly great Halo series, and it's just kind of like, because you can't have just pure action. A lot of people just expect pure action for the Halo show. It's budgetarily, you can't do it. It's not possible unless you do like a big movie thing or something and it's a TV show. But I loved the grit, the craziness, the full effect of just what a Needler can actually do. Although I thought it would be even more crazy a Needler shot, to be honest. But yeah, and just like kind of battles with the Chief in more interesting choreographed ways. As I said, I love the connection of Perez and Chief. I think the two of them really work off one another in a very, very good way. That I was kind of maybe hoping that Quan in the first season of the show would kind of do with like Chief, be like a foil of like a buddy thing. But yeah, I still, looking at that third episode, I don't know why they keep pushing the Quan thing. People, it's just not good. It's just not good. But I loved the Ackerson bits with like the Halsey connection, that whole thing kind of having a full effect and reasoning behind why that character feels that way towards Halsey. That was really, really well done, I thought, from like a show perspective, story development wise. So overall, just a great episode. I think it was by far the best episode of like the whole two seasons, I guess you would say, of the show. I'm very excited to see where things go. The ending of the episode was like a very typical kind of like 24 episode season kind of ending, which I thought was like, again, a bit silly, but like great speech from Keyes, great moments, great action, and I'm very curious to see what people think of the lore. Lore changing. I believe we'll be back with the next episode if you want to come and chat again. Again, Paramount they want their show promoted, but at the same time they make it hard for me to do, and it's like, come on, throw me a bone. And you can throw me a bone with liking the video, and subscribing is great as well. And hopefully we'll have more time to talk about other Halo episodes down the road, as I'm always down for the weird ride that this show is.